Hi everybody, welcome to lesson 6 of the Human Resource Management in Healthcare course. Okay, so today we are going to go through organizational development and training. Okay, so we're going to look at some functions of organizational development, look at the benefits and such. We're going to look at employee engagement and how important that actually is. We're going to go through some of the different dimensions of training that are out there. We're going to look at one major training design method that can be used, and then we're going to go into some delivery modes and succession planning, employee orientation, best practices, and let's just go ahead and dive right in. Okay. So functions of organizational development. So organizational development, or OD, let's just say organizational development, not OD. So organizational development can help an organization achieve balance in the face of change to ensure that it continues to meet its goals. So if you're constantly developing, and the one thing that we all know is that change is always going to be there. Change is the only constant that we should really recognize as like the constant. So things will always be constantly changing. For a business to be successful, okay, we need to always be keeping up with that change. Okay, so organizational development can help us do that. We're always going to be developing best practices to maybe possibly retrain our employees, have them develop new skills. We can remotivate our employees. We can have new goals. We can, restructure how we are handling our business and move forward in that way. Okay, so really the biggest thing that we should take from this is that change is constant. Change is always going to be happening, and for a business to be successful, we need to change with it. So we should always be implementing some sort of organizational development strategy. Okay, so the primary function of organizational development would be to increase the organization's effectiveness, okay, through planned interventions to the organization's processes. Okay, so if we implement different different methods to help increase our organization's effectiveness, and if we're always focusing on that and we're always kind of moving forward into the future and changing along with change, right, we should be able to improve our productivity, okay, and we would definitely be able to see an increase return on our investment, and then of course increased employee satisfaction, and in turn that kind of goes into a cycle, so that will also benefit your business. Okay, so employee engagement is so important, especially when it comes to training and organizational development, because if you're trying to have some sort of organizational development program and you're trying to implement certain methods, if your employees are not engaged, they're not motivated or anything like that, then how are they going to be able to go along with the organization and move forward? Your organizational development strategies will not be successful unless your employees are on board. Okay, so it's super important, and studies have actually shown that when you're able to retain and motivate your employees, that's the difference. Okay, and that is actually a huge problem that organizers face today. Okay, it's just not being able to retain their employees and also not being able to keep their employees motivated. Okay, so organizational development or engaging your employees should be a huge part of your organizational development strategy. Okay, you really need to be able to try to keep your employees engaged. Right. So there are several dimensions of training. Okay, different training methods that you can use. There are, and each different type or dimension of training is really going to be the differences among these dimensions of training have to do with the focus of the different topics that are discussed, or the different focuses that each different type of training has. So a management mandated topic will focus on different things compared to a specific to the position type of a topic or intervention topics, right? And we're going to get into that on the next slide to see exactly what type of topics that each different dimension of training will focus on. So your management mandated topics, these ones are going to be those that have to do with like so a management mandated topic is going to be more of those type of topics that have to do with really everybody. Okay, these topics are not going to be specific to the particular position or the individual or anything like that. It's like we're all in this together type of topics. All right, that's for the growth of the business. So some examples of these type of topics could be anti-harassment, right? Anti-harassment, of course, that's going to be very that's very important for the entire organization to know and to understand and to focus on, and for everyone to be on the same page there. That's not job specific at all. That is organization. That's good for the organization. Same thing with diversity and inclusion. That's something that everyone needs to know. Okay, everyone needs to be a part of that. Also, disaster preparedness, quality improvement, even a new employee orientation is something that like everyone needs to know and be part of when they enter this organization. Okay. Next, we have position-specific topics. So these type of topics are those that are very specific to that particular position. For example, like a position-specific topic for nurses is not going to be the same as position-specific topics for people who work in customer service or things like that. Okay, so some examples of some position-specific topics could be patient safety. And this is more position-specific because not everyone needs to know too much about patient safety. Not everyone is working with patients. Okay, so that's more position-specific. Same thing with leadership. Not everyone's in a leadership position, so not everyone has to know, a leadership-centered topic. When they become managers or they move into a leadership position, then they'll know this. Okay, and so on and so forth. So there's understanding organ donation, patient-centered care, in-service type topics. Okay, these are all position-specific topics, right? So next we have intervention topics. Okay, these are going to be those type of topics that are also for everybody, and these are going to be the ones where like let's say an organization is experiencing some sort of problem. Okay, so suddenly a problem has sprung in an organization. They're realizing there's some sort of social toxicity somewhere, and they realize, look, we got to get everyone on board and we need to change this. Okay, so or this could also be related to, hey, look, our organization is going to a different direction, so we all need to get on board. Or our organization is going to decide that we want to add we want to change our mission statement. Maybe we want to add different value to what we do, or we want to just start motivating people. We want to have like a motivational thing going on. So various different topics, but they're not necessarily, compared to like a management topic, they're a little bit different, because these are more of like, let's kind of build up our business and let's fix certain problems, and management is more of like these specific topics are something that like we all have to know within this organization. And these are also probably going to be topics that are almost more generic, and you would probably be seeing those same topics in other businesses as well. Okay. So an intervention topic is something that is also kind of like how management topics require, like these are going to be topics for everyone to know, okay? But the difference is here is that intervention topics are going to sort of fix a specific problem, whereas management topics are usually just more about maintenance and just generic information that we all have to know in the business. Okay, management topics might even be the same from business to business or very similar, whereas intervention topics might be very specific to the situation at hand. Okay, there could be a crisis, or maybe there's like a social there's some social toxicity going around in the corporate culture, or something, is happening, and so the organization feels the need to have some sort of intervention or topic, or any kind of additional training for that particular thing. Or it could also be that the organization wants to change something. Maybe the organization wants to change the value that they provide for their customers. Maybe they want to build on something. Maybe they feel like they need to remotivate their employees. Things like that would be considered more intervention topics. Okay, so some examples of this would be topics related to customer service. Also, building high performance teams, okay? It could be also dealing with difficult people, okay? Coaching for excellence, and then embracing change. So these are just some examples that you might see as an intervention type of a topic. All right, so next we're gonna look at the Addie model is like the most basic training design method or model to use if you are going to create some sort of training. Okay, some kind of intervention, or something that you want to create for your employees, okay, for your organizational development program or your strategy, whatever you want to do. The Addie model is very simple, and this is probably the easiest model to use, and it's the most common. Okay, so let's just kind of go through the different steps of this model. So first, the A stands for analyze. Okay, so analyze, this is pretty much the same as almost any other model that we ever go through. There's always that part, that position part in the model or the step where we sit and analyze the situation. You really need to survey the situation and get a feel of what's actually happening here. Okay, figure out where all the problems are, where all the good stuff is, what's going on with your organization, to kind of take inventory of what's happening, okay, where you guys are right now. Then you want to design. Then the next step is to design. So here you're going to define objectives that you want to focus on, okay. It could be you want to focus on customer service or something like that. So you define your objectives. Maybe your objective is that you want to improve customer service for your customers, and you want, you definitely want to get some feedback for that. Okay, you want people to start rating you, or to start giving you high ratings on Yelp or whatever, right? So define your objectives. Maybe you want to increase your customer service. You also want to determine the methods that you plan to use, okay, in increasing your customer service, and sort of define like the training methods that the different training, the training dimensions that you are going to want to use. Like, is this a managerial type of a topic, or is this going to be position specific, or is this going to be more of an intervention, okay, for your organization, right? Then next is develop. So right here you're going to develop your lesson plans for your employees, okay. Then I would be to conduct the training. So you give the lesson to your employees through whatever method you're using. Could be lecture, could be maybe it's like a webinar, maybe you created like a PowerPoint or like a video or something where you're supposed to show everybody, or anything counts, right? And then after that, you're going to evaluate. So at this point, you're going to interpret the results. Wait some time and just watch what happens after your employees implement what's actually happened, okay, what they learned. And then you can kind of see, okay, did this work? Did this not work? Do we need to do something else? Should we do something better? Should we improve on it? Do we need to do another round? Whatever. Okay, so here are some different training delivery modes. Okay, these are different methods or different modes that you can use when you actually create your design and you implement that. Okay, and give that information to your employees. So there are different ways you can do this. You can have an in-class learning session, okay, where there's like a lecture and your class is right there, they're paying attention, they're taking notes, doing whatever they do in a class, right? Then you could also do e-learning, okay? You can do something over the internet. You can do asynchronous learning. So this is where you allow your employees to learn at their own pace. They get to kind of do their own thing. Whether it be online. Well, more likely it would be online. That's what we usually use today. But even in the past, they might be like, you check out DVDs and then you take like a quiz or something, but you get to learn at your own pace. Okay. Then online synchronous. So this is in real time. This is when we're all sitting online together and learning something together. Okay. Self-paced DVD. This is also kind of outdated now. We don't really use DVDs. A lot of people don't even have DVD players anymore. But yeah, that's an option. Mobile learning on your phone or your electronic device, your mobile device. Okay, instant messaging is another tool that can be used. Video conferencing, kind of like, well, not so much like what we're doing now because we're not really using. This is pre-recorded, so this would be asynchronous, right? But if this was done in real time, it would be synchronous, and we would probably be doing some sort of video conferencing, right? Or a webinar. So now we're going to look at on-the-job training and off-the-job training. So I know that some of you would probably argue and be like, no, I could do that on the job, or that would count as off the job for me in my work. But see, real life sometimes does not match textbook information. So I just want to let you guys know that. That being said, this is all considered on-the-job training. And then what we're going to look after this is going to be off-the-job training. Okay. Anyway, so on-the-job training is usually like this is like during your work hours. You're getting paid for this, you're clocked in, or whatever. So first up, we have cross-training. This is when you might be sent to go get some training in like maybe another department. Okay, you're gonna learn a totally different job, some different duties. You're gonna learn a new skill, and maybe someone else from that department is gonna learn your job. Okay, and then that benefits an organization because that way they have employees that can do multiple different things. Okay, you brought in your horizon, your skills, and now they can kind of move you around and get you to do more things now. Or it comes in handy if like one day they actually need someone in that department to do that particular duty, and whoever usually does it is absent. Well, now they trained you so you can go do it. So it helps everybody. Then we have diversity training. So this is where they do methods. They try to educate you on being accepting of all the diversity around us. this. Okay, it should be more. Actually, I think that diversity training, in my opinion, should be called inclusive training, because inclusion is more what we're going at. If you have diversity, just a bunch of different, types of people, it really doesn't matter. Like, what are you doing with the different people? Is everyone included? Like, is everyone's ideas and everyone kind of working as a team, or is it like you just have a bunch of different people? So inclusion training would be more accurate, I think, or what this should be instead. Anyway, so customer service training, that's also on the job. Usually when you do customer service training, it might actually be hands-on. Okay, and so that's why it would be on the job. You would be on the job and probably working with customers and being told how to handle certain customer complaints or situations or whatever. Then there is ethics training. So this is also typically done on the job. Many times this might be coming from like a committee in an organization that works on, the ethical policies, and then they sort of, give that to everybody else. Then there's shadowing and coaching. So shadowing would be if you went to go kind of sit next to you and watch someone else while they do their job, and then you sort of just observe them, take notes maybe, and get a feel of what they do. Okay, and then coaching is more of when you're being guided. Okay, you are being guided maybe by some authority figure, or like a leader in your building. They're kind of guiding you on whatever they want you to learn, whatever they want you to do. Okay, so off-the-job training. This stuff, off-the-job training is typically when you actually leave your place of work. You might be paid for this time, or you might not be paid for this time, but you should usually be paid for this time, but I mean, some organizations find a way to not pay you for this time. It can happen. But yeah, you should technically be paid for the time that you are doing this type of training. But anyway, so one of the most common off-the-job type of a training method would be lectures. So you go attend a lecture somewhere. Okay, you go sit down and go to school, pretty much. Okay. Then there's role playing and case studies. So role playing is when you kind of when everyone who is involved in this training method assumes a certain role, and then you just sort of act out certain different situations, and you kind of get a feel of like how you would respond in this hypothetical situation. Okay, case studies are when you're actually given case studies. You're given these hypothetical situations, and you sort of work out how you would solve that problem. Okay, then simulations would be many times what they might do is have you actually go to a simulation center, and this way they can sort of like have an actual simulation of a situation, and then they can test you or watch you how well you would handle the situation, or they can teach you how to better handle the situation. Okay, especially in healthcare, you can be using like fake patients and monitors and all this medical technology, and train your employees on how to use this and how to handle this type of a situation. Okay, and then more off-the-job training would be knowledge and skill and abilities training. So you can this is more just training using just that knowledge, okay, being exposed to this information in some situation and being able to work with it. Okay, so employee orientation and socialization. The orientation is so important, okay? The new employee orientation is super important because that's what's going to give this employee their start, You want to get your new employees started off on the right foot, because that's going to be their base in how they move forward with this company. So you want to be really strong, right? So what you need to do, this is where the employee is going to formulate all their expectations for the organization as well. So they're going to look at the organization and, if it was a really strong, like amazing orientation that really got them motivated, they're going to really kind of formulate some great expectations for this organization. They're probably going to be like, well, I have ownership over my job. I know exactly what I'm doing. I know how to maneuver myself around this whole building, and it's going to be great. This is going to be my home. Or it could be the opposite, right? So anyway, during an employee orientation, there can actually be like a lot of information. It could be overwhelming for a new employee. And that's why they say, you may not actually want to have orientation be just like one day. Okay, you might want it to last like several days. You might want to give the new employee maybe like 1 hour of orientation and then send them off to work or to train. And then the next day you'll give them another hour or so of orientation, and then you'll send them off to do some work, and so on and so forth. So that way they can, this is actually the eating the apple method to employee orientation. So how do we eat apples? You take one bite at a time, right? So how do we give employees all the information that they need to be successful in this organization? We give it to them a little bit at a time. So that way it'll sink in, they'll be able to process the information really well, and they'll be able to make use of the information, right? So some of the things that should be covered during your employee orientation, there should be a part of the orientation that's completely employee-centered. Okay, and there should also be a part of the orientation that's organization-specific. Okay, so the employee-centered orientation, you're going to ask the employee-centered questions. This is where you answer things like compensation, the different facilities that the employees are allowed to use, which bathrooms they're supposed to go to, which rooms or whatever they're allowed to use when they work there, right? This is where you talk to them about their duties and their benefits package, their any kind of legal stuff. Okay, for HR, this is where you would give them like the full tour of the whole place. This is where you talk about their growth in the company. Maybe you can talk about upward mobility here. Okay, and then when you start answering organization-specific questions, so the organization-specific part of the employee orientation should answer questions that have to do with the organization itself, like the organization as a whole. What are the values and what's the culture like at this organization? What's most important to know here? What's really important for the employee to be all about here at this organization? What are the different policies and the different procedures for everything? Safety stuff, any kind of expectations that the organization would have for each individual. This is where you would talk about also like leave, like sick leaves, vacation leave, things like that. Okay, let's move forward. Then we have succession planning. So this is where the organization actually plans out a successor to take over a certain position, okay? And this is actually very critical, and this really only happens with those positions in an organization that are critical to operations. Okay, so you're not going to see succession planning for like your entry-level employees. You're not going to see succession planning for just even a line manager, probably not, right? You are going to see succession planning for your CEO, your executives, any kind of position within the company that's just so critical to operations. Like if you leave that space vacant, there's no one there controlling that position, then the organization doesn't work. Okay, so it's these type of positions that require succession planning, because anything can happen. Okay, at any point, risk is totally unpredictable, and so you never know when that position might be vacant. Okay, especially when, it's great, when someone in that position is actually planning on leaving, whether they have a better job, they just want to retire or what, but usually when that happens, they're planning to leave, they will give like a 2-month notice, not a 2-week notice, 2-month, or even there have been times where they might even give an organization 6 months. Okay, just depends on how prepared the organization is and how prepared their predecessors, their successors are ready to take on this position. Okay, so succession planning is a really long process. Usually what's going to happen is already, as soon as someone even enters that position, the company is already looking at the different employees that they have. They're taking inventory, they're keeping track of who can do what, who has what qualifications, and they're already sort of somewhat grooming the next person that's going to take their place. Okay, and it might be 3 people or 3 to 5 people that they're already kind of like, one of these people might take that spot at some point. Okay, so, and then when it happens, then they just move up, right? So anyway, that is the end of lesson 6. I hope you enjoyed this. If anything is confusing at all, please ask me questions. You can leave a comment in the comment section here, or you can also shoot me an email. Okay, and I will see you guys at lesson 7.